everyone, welcome back to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today I'll be talking about John Christie. And this story isn't really talked about, and I know I say that about a lot of my videos, but yeah, this case is actually so unknown that most, or if not all, evidence is very scarce and that you can rarely find it in some places, so I had to do a lot of digging. But yeah, I would like to put out a quick disclaimer. This story does talk about, it does like briefly mention like abortions and stuff like that. There's no real like, triggers or anything in this video. It does it does talk a lot about death, but it's mainly just the death and like the brief mentions of abortions. So if you're not into any of that, I suggest you click away from this video. And yeah, with that, let's get into it. Growing up, John did not have the best relationship with his father. His father was very controlling and not very loving towards any of his children. He wasn't necessarily neglectful, but he just never hugged his children. Like, he was still like around, and but he would never show affection towards his children. And his mother, on the other hand, was an amateur actor, and she was very mama bear. She was very overprotective of them. And she would baby them a lot more than they really needed to be babied, so... John said whenever he was 8 years old, he attended his grandfather's funeral, and that was his first real experience with death, and it made him very curious, like, where do dead people go? How do they stay so preserved? His grandfather's funeral was an open casket, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So, like, he was very actively looking at his dead grandfather and being like, huh. Something's not right, Pops. Something's not right. And, John was a very lone wolf type child. Every kid his age would be running around playing, soccer, football, or just playing, running around. And John would take strolls in the cemetery. At the age of 15, John left school to get a full-time job as a movie projectionist, and at this job he met a girl who was just a little bit older than him, and she invited him to like hang out, And they get to her house, and she says that he can have his way with her, and so they're fooling around, and he could not perform, like, hello. And anyways, this girl gets super pissed, and she ran off and told everybody about what happened, and then they ended up calling John Reggie No Dick. And if I'm not mistaken, John's middle name was Reginald, and so that's where they got Reggie. When John was 17, he got drafted to war in the middle of World War I. Crazy times. And he was left with an eye and throat injuries and was discharged. And he moved back to his hometown and worked at the local post office, and he began dating a woman named Ethel. The couple got married in 1920, and their marriage was short-lived when John went to jail for stealing, and when he got out, Ethel went to go visit family, and while Ethel was away, John decided to get down and dirty with sex workers, and Ethel came home, saw him, and filed for divorce. After the divorce, John moved to London, where he would go to jail a total of 3 more times, two of them for petty theft, and the last one was for attacking a sex worker. And so John was sitting in jail, and he decided to write Ethel a love letter begging for her forgiveness. And Ethel got the note, and she was like, oh my god, I want him so bad. So she was immediately on board, and she quit her job and moved to London with John, where they reunited and got remarried in 1932. And in 1938, the couple moved into 10 Rillington Place, where it was like this place was like the ground floor of a rundown house, which was converted into like a 3-apartment unit type deal. Like it was them, a family, and then like another family like right here, and there was like a little garden. No, it was kind of like a L, and then there was like a garden, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And in 1939, John would be back in uniform as he was serving in World War II as a special constable in the War Reserved Police. In 1943, Ethel decided to visit family, and John, our man of the hour, decided he is very bored, and he puts on his uniform and goes down to where all these sex workers are, and he picks up a 17-year-old sex worker and brings her back to his humble abode, and he is being a very good host. He's bringing her drinks, he's bringing her snacks, and while she is not looking, he grabs like a stocking and he strangles her until she passes away. He waits until everybody in his building is asleep, and then he takes the girl's body and puts her in the backyard, and he buries her there. And then a few months later, after he buried the 17-year-old girl, he goes to the local post office, and there he sees a beautiful lady about 31 years old, and he talks her up and he takes her home. He tells her he's gonna go get her a drink, and she is tricked into inhaling coal gas fumes. It is not documented how she was tricked, but somehow he just whoop and she was gone. He then sexually assaulted her body and strangled her with a stocking, which I don't know why he strangled her after he died, but he just did. In 1939, a new family moved in above John and Ethel. A man named Timothy, his wife Beryl, and their child Geraldine. And the two families caught on really well, and Beryl fell ill and realized she was pregnant, but she didn't want to keep the baby. No. So John, our handyman, says he can perform an abortion. Easy peasy. And without a doubt in the world, Beryl was like, absolutely, let's do it. So, funnily enough, Beryl died. Unsure how. Most things in this case were not documented, but a lot of people speculated that John intentionally killed her, or that she died while he was actually trying to perform an abortion. Unclear. But wouldn't put it past him. Timothy goes down to the police station and tells police that he killed his wife. Like, Timothy was like, hey, I killed my wife. And he threw all of her body parts down the drain, and police throw Timothy into jail and go to their home and don't find Beryl or Geraldine, and they failed to find the bodies in the garden, obviously. And eventually they do find Beryl and Geraldine. They were both deceased. It was unclear how Geraldine passed on. It was possible that she died from malnutrition, or John killed her. Either way, baby was dead. Baby was dead. In 1942, John was going through a rough patch with Ethel, and they would fight a lot. Ethel was constantly leaving to go see her family because she could not stay around John. And so one night, while John and Ethel were in bed, Ethel had fallen asleep, and John had strangled her until she passed away. And he stuffed her body under the floorboards in their living room. After Ethel's passing, John sold everything she had owned and forged her signature to get all of the cash from her bank account, and so John was now living his life. He then proceeded to kill 3 more sex workers with the gas and strangulation. And John eventually moved out of the home and was on the run. He lived on the streets and everything. Then a new family moved into the home and noticed a strong stench, so they called an exterminator thinking it was like a dead rat or something. And they found a woman's leg in the wall, so they called the police and they found everything. So they looked it up and saw that John was the last person to live in the house. And so they search for John and they find him and they arrest him and they interview him, and he denies. And the cops were like, "No, buddy boy, we know. And so they put his butt in prison. They eventually get him on trial, and they found out he did in fact kill Timothy's wife and child, and he confessed to every other murder. And so on July 15th of 1953, John was hung. I'm gonna finish this up and I'll be right back. Alrighty, here's the finished product. It is a little black headband that I made for my teacher. Yeah. And so, don't mind the mess in the back. I had dinner, and then I was trying to do a crochet project, and then I gave up on it halfway, and then I got distracted and all that other stuff like that. And I'm getting distracted right now. I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna cover that up. Thank you. So yeah, today's story was absolutely crazy. And I mean, it was not as crazy as the other ones, but it's still pretty crazy, you know? Any case involving people getting hurt is gonna be crazy in my book. But, yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if I have not told you already, on my Twitter, I'm gonna be posting progress photos or updates on the, granny square blanket that I am making. I've still yet to map that out, but I'm gonna do it, because I rarely use my Twitter, and I want to start using it before my account gets deleted. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a good day or night. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share with all your friends and with all the demons in your closet. And yeah.